there is this interesting dilemma right now in where you can operate a UAV or the UAS configurations that were showing up now in all manner of working environments. But there's this big question about what happens if one of these machines comes afoul over people, over important territory. What do we do about that? So let's talk about some possible solutions. Alan Erickson from Indemnis, tell us what you're doing here.
Well, we've been working for the last 2.5 years to create a fail-safe for drones, basically a recovery system like a parachute that actually works. My background came from the TV film industry, brought drones into the fold with Discovery Channel and Animal Planet, and at a network like that, they care about safety, and we bought basically every parachute system on the market for like Free Fly, Cine Stars, and things like that to test them and see if we could use them as a risk mitigator. And what we found is, in a real failure scenario, they all entangled. They didn't work. And the more we looked into it, looking at these different companies, they all demoed their products by just hovering the aircraft, throttling down the motors, leveling it out, and deploying. And that's not a real world scenario. And so I left the network and got some pretty heavy private equity funding and built a very large engineering team, and we started tackling the problem. And first we developed what we call the SLS, which was a fully inflatable parachute system made of a ballistic material that's ultra lightweight. And then we pared that down for the average user to what we call the Nexus, which is a ballistic tube that sheathes the parachute and lines inside this tube. It inflates in 30 milliseconds, deploys the chute out at 90 miles an hour, and during that inflation process over 30 milliseconds, it fully sheathes the parachute and lines from all the control surfaces of the aircraft so that if it's rolling and tumbling and you're at speed, it's not going to entangle. And we've spent just thousands of hours engineering, flight testing, simulating different failure scenarios in the real world. We'll take an aircraft, go full speed, kill 1, 2, 3, 4, all motors, get it to roll and tumble as violently as possible. We've seen rolls as violent as 180 to RPMs that were just natural rolls from a failure, or like we had motor cutting in and out and the avionics overcompensated. And we've induced failures up to 300 RPMs, and we're at the point now where we haven't had a failure. We can recover the aircraft every time with no entanglement. And that's a really big thing for flight over people, because Phantom, people argue, is it safe, is it not safe if it hits you on the head? But you move up to something like a 20-pound, 30-pound, or 55-pound drone and it falls out of the sky.
It's going to do some damage.
It's going to potentially kill you, if not send you to the hospital. And being able to reliably have a fail-safe on it that works is a huge thing. We like to use the analogy that all the existing parachute systems on the market were like saying the brakes on your car only work if you're going 5 miles an hour and the roads are dry and the sun is shining. We want to work no matter what happens, and have done all the engineering and testing to do that because we were drone operators. The aircraft can go any direction, and it could fail at any direction, going forward, backwards, left or right. And it needs to be able to work. And so that's what we've been working on, is the Indemnis Nexus, and now it's available for sale so that people can have a working fail-safe.
What kind of platforms are you able to adapt the system to right now?
So it's fully scalable, basically from anything about 8 pounds and up right now. And by up, I mean the full-size aircraft for DoD. But we're offering it for the Inspire 1, Inspire 2, M200, M210, and then the Free Fly Alta 8 and Alta 6 platforms. We'll probably be adding the M600 from DJI really soon. But to give you an idea how confident we are of our system has its own black box, very smart software. It's a very well-built system. We're very confident in it. Confident enough that when a customer buys it and puts it on their aircraft, the software will, tell you, all right, you're good to fly, the system's armed. If you have a failure and the system doesn't recover your aircraft, it doesn't deploy and your aircraft just hits the ground, we'll buy you a new aircraft.
That's pretty confident.
We're 100% confident in it. We've deployed in 60-mile-an-hour winds, rain, snow. We've flown our aircraft in every direction. Take an I-2 on our website and our Facebook page. You can see an Inspire 2. We're killing it, causing a failure in sport mode at 58 miles an hour. Recover it with a downward fire.
Give me a rough idea of what the system and weight penalties may be for an installation like this, costs, and most important down the line, how do you maintain a system like this?
Okay, so the weight for the Inspire 2, which is the one I'll use because that's one we're publishing footage of right now, is 14 ounces. Installation time is 15 minutes tops. You have to remove 4 screws on the nose cone, insert a kind of interceptor board. That's a one-time install. Then the system just clicks on and off the arm like a GoPro very quickly. We have done tons of flying. The aircraft handles the weight just fine. We see about 2 minutes in flight time reduction with a X5R gimbal on it. So for professional users, minimal impact, very reliable. If the system deploys, this is really important. It's not user serviceable, all right? Your background sounds a little different, but the average person doesn't know how to pack a parachute reliably. And I'm gonna say that, I asked the question to everyone, would you jump out of a plane with a chute you packed yourself? So you do have to send the system back to us, depending on how your aircraft came down. You know, if it got blown into the trees and the chute gets damaged, things like that. The rearming fee ranges between $150 to $300 with, on average, a 3-day turnaround time.
Okay.
And for, you know, large fleet users, we do offer training so that they can rearm the system themselves.
And acquisition cost?
Acquisition cost is $1,700, though during XPONENTIAL and the launch of the product, we're offering a discount of $700 off any system we sell. So right now it's $1,000. And a big thing, coming from the cinema background, we're going with a kind of favored customer pricing regimen, kind of like Red Digital Cinema, where if you buy a system right now, the next system that comes out, if you want to upgrade to it for your i3 or an M600, you'll get at least 50% off on the next system.
Okay.
As an early adopter.
Talk about deployment methodologies. How is the system deployed, and what control does the operator have over the various deployment methodologies?
So for the i2, right now is no way for the user to manually deploy it. And we could add a functionality in, but our software is really smart. And what I mean by that is we've built a flight reference table on the i2, for example, over, you know, about 80 hours of flight time in that instance, plus information, you know, gathered from DJI. And the software compares the last 30 seconds of flight data in real time every 200 milliseconds to what's currently happening.
Okay.
We can detect the difference between flight or fall in 6 feet of movement. We do not have to even remotely hit terminal velocity. So basically, unless the aircraft is right in front of you, we're going to know that we need to deploy before you ever even know what's going on.
Okay.
And that's recorded in a black box. All that information is offloaded. When the system gets to us, we're able to, you know, work with the customer, and the customer is able to look at their aircraft and see what went wrong.
Well, I would assume LOS exceeding certain pitch and roll parameters, vertical parameters, and so forth are all basic elements of the decision-making process that the software that you've developed will utilize to determine when and where to deploy.
We've actually just been testing out the latest software feature where if the aircraft's rolling, it can calculate when to deploy during the roll so that ideally it fires straight upward to give you some more altitude.
Okay. Is there an awareness of the attitude at point of deployment?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, because under certain circumstances, obviously firing inverted can be really problematic.
It can. In some circumstances, depending on the flight dynamic of the aircraft, it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
For the i2, we fire out the nose cone
okay.
so that your camera the aircraft lands on its back, protecting the camera.
Mm-hmm.
But in most situations, it's going to roll or tumble. And one of the things to understand that's really different about this system is it actually throws the parachute to full extension. And if you look, we'll be posting some videos, ground deployments of other systems and our system. Most systems throw a parachute maybe 3 or 4 feet.
Yeah.
We can throw a parachute 60 feet. We don't run a 60-foot line, but
what's the methodology behind the deployment?
So the methodology is we use this ballistic tube from a proprietary material, and we weld it. And it's a sealed tube connected to a base. Mm-hmm. There's a solid state valve that releases about 1,800 psi of air in a little 1.9 ounce carbon fiber air tank.
Gotcha.
Into it instantly. That parachute is inverted into that tube, packed into the whole system. It deploys out really quickly, 30 milliseconds, rigid state, and during that deployment process, it throws the parachute to full extension away from the aircraft every time, and that's how we've avoided entanglement, because that tube is of such a length when it's inflated that the lines in the parachute start past all the props and control surfaces of the aircraft.
Well, deployment systems are an art form unto itself. I had mentioned when we were talking before the show started, I spent quite a bit of time with the BRS folks in developing the manned ballistic recovery systems that were employed on the Cessnas and the Cirrus and a number of other aircraft since, and actually had the opportunity to ride the chute on a number of occasions, and in one other case, which was kind of interesting, in an aerobatic ultralight with a control failure, he got to fire one out in anger. It's watching the development of the technology, what's happened to parachutes, what's happened to deployment technologies, what's happened to reefing systems over the years has been absolutely fascinating. And one of the things that I saw as this industry developed was a very specific need, so I'm not surprised that people are stepping up at this stage of the game. So this product has just become available?
Yes, it's just become available this week to the public. I mean, we've had some beta users, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't put something on the market that didn't work, you know, in every scenario. In 2.5 years of engineering to get this thing to the point where we're, like I said, confident enough to guarantee the system in your aircraft.
And where do you go from here?
Where we go from here is, one, working with the FAA, which we've been, you know, in contact with them, and the ASSURE program to help this be a risk mitigator to allow for potential flight over people for our end users. You know, always further developing the hardware. And we have some future upgrades in the pipeline that make it even nicer. I will say that there's still some problems. If you have a parachute deploy and you're in an urban environment and you slam into the side of a building, your chute might collapse. It's a problem we're working on tackling, and that's the kind of stuff that, you know, we look to take care of our customers that work with us and buy our product and make sure that they get the best favored pricing on the upgrades as they come out.
Well, and I got to tell you, you got my curiosity aroused here. We're going to definitely have to take a look at what you're doing, and more important, follow up and get some information and get behind the scenes with you down the line, hopefully for a feature or two. I appreciate your time here. How can people find out more about the technology you've developed and the products that are coming available?
Well, our website, indemnis.com, and our Facebook page, which is Facebook/Indemnis, are really great sources for updates. Got videos on there. Those are the best ways to check us out and get information about the products and the technology.
Alrighty. Well, we appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Have a great day.
It's a fascinating technology. As I said, I've been working with this stuff for decades, and boy, every time I step back into it, the more my mind just absolutely boggles.
Have you had a chance to actually see the videos?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty intriguing, but we definitely need to spend some more time looking behind the scenes, and we thank you much.
Thank you.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International's Exponential 2017, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
In collaboration with NASC, introducing Sonix Aerospace, bringing you the Taros Group 4 UAS, the redesigned Tiger Shark Block 4, and the Subsonics Twin Jet UAS, all derived from flight-proven manned systems, not concepts, real aircraft. More at sonixaerospace.com.
Let Patrick Neal and Associates provide the legal expertise needed to navigate the commercial UAS industry. Whether it be waivers, exemptions, operational plans, or other issues, we can provide the guidance you need to keep flying and building your successful UAS operation. www.droneattorneys.us